sound of the bell. Mind calm, body at ease, breathing quiet, sentiment benevolent. Dharma friend, sitting still in vital silence, we practice eco-Buddhism together. The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of non-violent global village forever. Here is the after sound of the bell. Thunder of silence, light after Dharma rain. Om Amoga Vairocana Maha Mudra Mani Padma Chavalaya Pravartaya
Please stand for the chanting and then the recitation of the 3 refuges. Shima Quimyane Shimam Samse Chemam Chale Samchu Il Che Puttaya Shim Quimyane Sivan Sanse Chemam Chale Samju Il Che Dhamaya Chim Quinyan Shivang Samse Shemang Chale Songju Ilche Sangaya And the English version. I go for refuge to the Buddha.
I go for refuge to the Buddha
And resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment
And realize the great way.
and realize the great way.
I go for refuge to the Dharma.
I go for refuge to the Dharma
And resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will penetrate the teachings
I will penetrate the teachings
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
I go for refuge to the Sangha
I go for refuge to the Sangha
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
Please return to your meditation for approximately 5 more minutes, and then we will have a Dharma talk. please join in some simple mindfulness exercises, bringing your full attention and presence moment by moment. And also having a sense of your breathing around your nose, your mouth, your chest, but also knowing that the whole body breathes. So first, and at this point, let's be a little more present with our spine. The way we move, especially as we pay attention to our spine, massages the whole nervous system because its central channel is first through the spine.
with you. Travel on alone, like a king who has given away a kingdom, like an elephant in the forest. Travel on alone, rather than with a fool for company. Do not carry with you your mistakes. Do not carry your cares. Travel on alone, like an elephant in the forest.
Just here, and just now, just this breathing. And we discover going out from ourselves. In this place, a duck gets included in the breathing and chickens. Red-leafed amaranth plants grow in profusion. Plain old grass. Ailanthus, she is in bloom. Breathing fragrant across the yard. And further out, so many things, so much this and that. The Buddha's way is vast and all-encompassing. Nothing in the universe is excluded from it. Today, happy Father's Day. To everyone, I think mothers always have a little bit of fathering in them, and fathers always have a lot of mothering in them. I think the pandemic has really allowed us to see this. And it's Juneteenth Day, which Ma'un will share a bit with us later. So, all you Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, welcome in from the 10 directions and good morning. Some of you know me and some of you don't. My name is Haju. And today, something a little different that I'm experimenting with on behalf of Sangha members and beyond. And it's some things that I read that I've got from many places. I find I am always the patched robe person in whatever I do. I'm not terrifically original. It all comes from good sources. So here, In the spirit of healing, I acknowledge that our Zen Buddhist temple sits on the traditional homelands of the people of the three fires, Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Ottawa, as well as the Menominee, Miami, and Ho-Chunk nations. Also, in the spirit of healing, I acknowledge that two of our buildings, the temple building, yellow, and the Sangha Hall here, were originally the homes of African American people, as were the homes on Woodlawn Street all around us on this side of Taggart. Our Sangha members are beginning and continuing an effort to learn more about the Native people and the African American people whose homes were here. In this spirit, we acknowledge that our growth has not always included parts of our greater community, and it is our intention to be more inclusive. This is a special time of year in many ways. Gosh, I think today is the longest day and the shortest night. Or if it's not today, it's tomorrow. Yeah. That's a special time in this part of the world. So much light. It's also a day when we have been doing what's called the Liberation of Life Service, also called the Animal Releasing Service. And we've been doing it ever since I first came here at this time, because it was the beginning of our summer training, which was 2 months of really deep and wonderful efforts at our practice of meditation and community. In this little Zen Lotus Society handbook, which came out many years ago and used to be given to each person in the meditation course, there's a description which helps us to get a formal idea, because I'm going to this morning talk about kind of how it all came to us at this very moment. Liberation of life service. The liberation of life service is held in order to uphold the spirit of the first precept, non-violence, and to embody the Mahayana ideal to cherish all life. Many moving stories in which one sacrifices oneself over and over again in order to benefit all beings are told to inculcate into all the universal love and ultimate selflessness of our being. And I would add the interbeing. The liberation of life service is sometimes called the animal releasing ceremony, because most frequently during the service, Buddhists release animals they have purchased that would otherwise be slaughtered or suffer confinement and torture. The ceremony has an important message for those of us who have to live in the midst of violence and cruelty today. Participation in such a ceremony can help people raise their consciousness to this all-important matter that concerns us all. Oh, you know, when the Buddha was teaching 2,500 and maybe 64 years ago, scholars debate the date. That's actually when he's born, so it was after that. He often told stories in response to questions. And they were often stories which related the past lives of people and oftentimes involved animals and trees and grass. And so they were stories of interbeing. And there's one that he told, which is called the Kusanjali Jataka tale, Kusanjali, and it means skill in means, Kusanjali. And I would like to read it too, because it's quite inspiring, and I think it really broadens our perspective of animal releasing. You know? In the Kusanjali Jataka, the future Buddha dwelt as a clump of kusa grass. Isn't that beautiful? Dwelt as a clump of kusa grass near a beautiful wishing tree, Mukahaka, with a strong trunk and spreading branches. The spirit of this tree had once been a mighty queen. The grass was an intimate friend of this noble tree. Nearby, the palace of King Brahmadatta in Benares had only one main pillar, which had become shaky. The king sent his carpenter to find wood with which to replace the pillar, and they came upon the wishing tree. They resisted cutting it down, and yet could find no other suitable candidate for the job. When they told the king of their troubles, he told them to cut the wishing tree to make his roof secure. The carpenters went and made a sacrifice to the tree, asking for its forgiveness and announcing they returned the next day to execute their deadly deed. The tree burst into tears. And the various spirits of the forest came to console her, yet none could think of a way to thwart the carpenters. Finally, the Kusa grass Buddha called up to her and assured her that he had a plan. The next day, the Kusa grass took on the personality of a chameleon and worked his way up from the roots of the tree through the branches, making the tree appear as if it were full of holes. When the carpenters came, the leader exclaimed that the tree was rotten and they had not properly inspected it the day before. Consequently, the tree was saved. The noble tree rejoiced and lauded the lowly clump of grass for saving her life. She assembled the forest spirits and announced that they must make friends of the wise, whatever their station in life. They must make friends of the wise, whatever their station. After telling this story, the Buddha explains, and this always happens in the Jataka tales, that Ananda, his loyal follower, was the tree spirit, and that he, the Buddha, was the Kusa sprite, the grass sprite. Although this story was used as a moral tale to encourage people to support one another and accept one another regardless of social rank, this also can be seen as an environmental fable wherein the salvation of the tree stands for the preservation of both remarkable trees and the larger ecosystem in which they thrive. This is in the spirit of everything counts. Everything. Okay. So that was over 2,000 years ago. Perhaps 200 years ago, in South Korea, probably North Korea too, there was no division at that time. These stories about cherish all life and liberation of all life continue to be integral to Buddhist practice and also to the culture around the Buddhist temples. So another story, and this is one that I first heard at one of the Liberation Life Services from Venerable Samusunam, our founder. I can remember it pretty well, and I'll tell you a little more about it later. It was in Kalladar in Ontario on the monastery grounds of another Buddhist group, and we were releasing pigeons. Yeah. But let me tell you the story that Sunam told before we did the releasing that year. It was a time in Korean history as a Confucian dynasty that ruled the country. And that everyone, in order to get positions and jobs around the country, and especially in the government structure, had to write examinations, these government examinations. And it said that families would work very hard so that their sons could have enough time to study for these examinations, because doing well in the examinations meant that the family could flourish because the son could become wealthy as a result of having a good job. So there was a lot of sacrifice that took place. And there was this one particular young man who started out and he did all this studying while everybody worked. And it was an agricultural time. And so it wasn't like you just sat around looking at your computer and worked that way. It was really work with the whole body, out growing vegetables, etc. So he went to the exams this year, and it was traveling. He had to go to Seoul. So people often walked from all over the country to take the exams. And the first time he went, he failed the exams. Not so unusual. So he went back and tried again, and went back to Seoul again and failed again. A little discouraged, he determined to keep at it. And on the particular time I'm going to speak to you about, he was going for the 9th time. There was so much of kind of pressure that he kept going. You know? So trudging, probably at least over 100 miles walking, and he would stop at various places on the way. And as he was walking, of course, he was walking through the countryside, so there were lots of rice fields, rice growing, other kinds of vegetables, cabbage, of course. It's the main ingredient in kimchi, so there was always lots of cabbage. And he stopped at a tea house, and all the tables were full, but there was one table where there was a man at it and one chair. So he said to him, "May I join you here as I have some tea?" And the man said, "Oh, yes, you're welcome to sit here." And so the young man sat down and got some tea, and they began to talk a little bit. And he asked the man, what was he doing? Because he was concerned about, what's a good thing to do with my life. And anyway, and the man said, "Well, I'm a physiognomist." So, do you know what a physiognomist is? No? How about you, Mom? What's he going like this?
He reads a skull or something.
What he what?
He reads bumps in the skull.
Oh, he reads bumps in the
Is
skull.
that right?
Well, it's kind of warm. So, well, a physiognomist is a kind of fortune teller by looking at one's body and visage. Maybe also looking at one's bumps on one head, I suppose, if they show. And so the young man said, well, can you tell me, am I going to pass the exams this year? The physiognomist looked him over, up and down, was quiet. And then he took a deep breath and exhaled and said, you know, I'm really sorry to tell you, but you're going to fail. Well, the young man was devastated. He just got up abruptly and left the inn, and in tears went out walking around the rice fields, around the vegetables. It was countryside, yeah, into the forest and out of the forest, and was gone for some hours. Tired out, still devastated, he returned to the tea house. And the physiognomist was still there. It's like you drinking tea all day. You can really get into it. So the young man sat down, and as you can imagine in your own mind his kind of feeling after he'd been going 8 years and been studying so hard, and everybody was depending upon him, and he was going to fail. So he sat down, and finally he kind of looked up at the physiognomist. And the physiognomist said, what did you do when you went out? Well, I was just crying, he admitted. And going around, I don't know how I can even go on, whether it's even worth continuing my life. What did you do? The physiognomist asked something. Well, I just went around the fields. I went around the rice fields. No, please, there's something that you must have done. And the student said, well, there was one thing. Oh, what was it? What was it? The physiognomist asked. Well, it's really not that much. I was going along the path of the rice paddy, and there was a broken piece of the bank, and water was running out of the paddy. And there was some ants walking along the rim of the bank. And because part of the bank broke away, they were in disarray, not able to get to wherever they were trying to get to. He said, oh, I just reinforced the bank so that they could continue on their way. And the physiognomist said, that's it. You're going to pass the exam now. And the young student said, what? How could that be? So what do you think happened? That it could make a big change like that. First he's going to fail, and then he's not. You want to put something in the chat? What happened? He was going to fail, and then he was going to pass. And all this repairing the bank, what's it about? What are people saying?
We haven't gotten an answer yet.
Okay. Namo. I'm just waiting for you. So I'm going to do, it's a lovely chant, which is about may all beings enjoy the pure land where all precepts are kept. It's a kind of liberation of all beings. Namo Amitabha. Okay, Spencer, what?
Jennifer Frank says, karma happened. Karma.
Karma happened. Jennifer, you have to be more specific. Would you please be? Namo Amitabha.
Paula Frank says, he repaired the rice paddy and the outcome of his actions helped others. Catherine Welfare says, he found his way to help sentient beings and so himself.
Wow. Good to hear these. Keep them coming. There's a lot of ways to look at this. Namo Amitabha.
Jennifer has an update. She says, he thought of others instead of himself.
Nice specific detail, Jennifer. Yes, that's, I think we're all on the same theme here. Let me know if another one comes. But it is, this guy was in the middle of a great deal of angst. And poor me, and mine, and I. And in the midst of that, he went to another place to help small beings. It was like in the spirit of everything counts, but this is just a little thing. But to be able to put down in the midst of a pretty tough situation for him and help others. So in some sense, that's what it's about. And it's also how it can almost change our very essence. This one, the Buddhist way is vast and all-encompassing. Nothing in the universe is excluded from it. Everything counts. Yeah. So, from that time of hearing that story, it must have been about, I would say, probably 38 years ago, here in Michigan, that I heard it. No, it wasn't. It was actually before I came to Michigan, so more than 40 years ago. Kaladar is in Canada, it's a monastery. And that day, we went to Kensington Market, where a lot of pigeons are sold because people use them in their restaurants for pigeon soup or whatever. And so Sunam had us buy a couple of dozen pigeons, and he asked everybody to contribute $5 because pigeon cost $5, if I remember correctly. So we had them in this cage and box, and we had a van, and we drove a couple hours to get to Kaladar. And there was some of the Korean members of our Sangha were with us. There's quite a carpool of people who went. And we first did the ceremony, and we were chanting, and we would be handed a pigeon and we would let the pigeon go. It was quite dramatic. Pigeons, squirm around, but if you get them just right, they stay with you, and then you can let them go. It was kind of beautiful. And so we all did that, and we released all the pigeons. And Sunam had done it at Kaladar some years before that time. And what we had to do was, after we released the pigeons, we found that they kept hanging around instead of going out into the forest. And he said we had to scatter corn and food for them because they're not used to this environment. They're so domesticated. And so we had to make sure that there was some food for them while they got adjusted. And then after that, we had always a wonderful potluck meal. And it was especially wonderful because the Korean ladies always made the best of kind of dishes, and everybody brought things. And after we did a lot of chanting for the pigeons, we had a delicious meal and enjoyed being at the monastery, and then came back to Toronto. And then when we came here, of course, we started doing the same thing. We couldn't find pigeons here, So we have, over the years, we've released turtles, other kinds of birds, fish, snakes, you name it. Sometimes we would go to a bird sanctuary where they were restoring birds that had been found, and we would take those birds out and we would do a special service. And what happened was that only a few of us went. It wasn't something that really caught on. So we decided that we should do it here in the temple yard. And because we have a big service on Sunday, we'll just invite everybody to come in the backyard and participate in an animal releasing service. So we did. And we found that the best animals for us to release that could survive with us were crickets and worms. And so we ended up getting crickets at pet supplies where they would be sold for pet food, and also worms at bait stores, which would be used to catch fish. And we would come out into the temple backyard and we'd be chanting Namo Amitabha as we put all of these things around. And people kind of liked, keeping the cricket in your hand was hard to do, always crawling up your arm or somewhere. And the kids really like to do that, and holding a worm, a little ugly worm apparently, and taking it to find a place. So after that, then sometimes we would have special games with the children. We had balloon throwing, water balloons throwing back and forth. And it became like what I remember as a child, the Sunday school picnic that we had in June. And we would go and have races and have games and a picnic too. So a little bit of that spirit as part of our liberation of life service. And we didn't do it last year because of pandemic, but we did do it the years before that, not only in our backyard, but at Peace Camp. And people at Peace Camp really love to do that. And there we cooperated with the bird sanctuary and always released birds, so that it was lovely to see them go out to the trees around us. And everyone watched and watched to see that they were okay. So here we are now, a little urban farm with lots of animals. Some are domesticated, but we also have a lot of rabbits and groundhogs and chipmunks and squirrels. And what else have we got? Oh, I saw a skunk this morning. Yeah, when I was out walking, there's a skunk in the neighborhood. So we're sure to get it here. They always seem to find the temple grounds and a good place to be a little safe. Yeah. So I'd like you to think about this. And as we think of Indra's net and the relationship which it represents of all beings. And one of the ways that animal releasing ended up to be a part of my family life with my daughters was that every time we would be driving and we would see an animal that had been killed on the road, I had learned, and it actually comes from one of the sutras, that you should offer the 3 refuges to the essence of that animal. And so we would go, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, and we'd at least make a bow. And it's really interesting for me to see that my daughters still do that. One of them, but I forget their ages, born in 1984 and 1979. Because it's something to do. And once, when an animal has died, that it may well, I think of going on to a safer life in this great net of interbeing. So please, on this day, have some special regard for animals and insects, water beings, and try to take it with you. It's said that really this kind of regard, it's a way of practicing generosity. And when we practice generosity, we both benefit as well as what receives the generosity. And a special sutra that we have always read at the Liberation of Life Services is the Metta Sutta. And Mom's going to read it to us now. This is, remember, in the spirit that everything counts.
Metta Sutta, meditation on loving kindness. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none. The great or the mighty, medium, short, or small. The seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born. May all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none, through anger or ill will, wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, and even as a parent protects with their life their children, their only children. So, with a boundless heart, should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection.
And let's just chant, maybe 36 times, or no, maybe 10 times, because our time is getting short. Namo Amitabha. This is the spirit of the Metta Sutta that Malama has just read aloud for us. Namu, Namo,
Namu,
Amitabha, Amitabul, Amitabha.
Amitabha.
Namo Amitabul. Namo Amitabul. Namo Amitabul. Namo Are there any more chats that we should respond to?
One came in, this was from April Allen, and April says, I always appreciate your stories, Haju. And we had another one said, which answered the question of what happened to this person. And this commenter said, it caused a chain reaction of good things.
That's pretty beautiful, eh? Don't you think? Yeah, by a small thing, a good reaction of good, what is it again?
Chain reaction.
It caused a chain reaction of good things.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for participating like this. I think I'd like to try it a little more. It's the first time, at least, that I have been speaking with you, and it's really quite refreshing because we've been, apart for quite a long time. But let's have the announcements from Maum, and she's going to give you an idea about when we're becoming live, and also keeping online, because we want to be able to reach the people at a distance that this is allowed. Okay, here's Maum.
Morning, everyone. So a chain reaction of good things is coming our way. Our target date for having in-person services is July 18th. And let me tell you about the chain of events that will lead to that. So for this coming week, we will continue with our meditation in the park every morning at 6 a.m. on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and at 6:30 a.m. on Sunday, Burns Park. So please join us if you can. You're also welcome to come to the Temple Sangha House for midday meditation and evening meditation. Midday meditation at 11:45 a.m., evening meditation at 6:30 p.m. So we hope to see you for some of these activities. And this coming week, we will also continue our study groups, Way of the Bodhisattva, and the Wednesday evening sitting. Next Sunday, we will be streaming from the temple, and then all of the clergy will be going to a retreat at our Chicago temple. So beginning on the 28th, and we will be away for 2 weeks, resuming on then July the 11th, we will resume our services. So we will be here next Sunday live, then on the 11th, then on the 4th, we will not have a live service. That day, there's precept taking ceremony instead. So live on the 27th, no service on the 4th, back on the 11th, and then on the 18th, we hope to see you under our new canopy and as in person. So we are so looking forward to that. And that is the chain of events, the chain of good events that is coming up. As always, we're so grateful for your engagement with the temple in many ways, bringing us financial offerings of food and produce, lovely bread, all of these kinds of things. And
May I suggest from the back corner here that while we're away, we're going to need some extra help with the garden. I noticed our lawn right between the Sangha house and the temple is really growing up. So there's many things, and we'll have a work day next Saturday from 3 to 5. But if there's, I don't know, no, not but, and if you are able to come at some time during the week, or if you can come on that Saturday, that would be really helpful. It just seems like this weather is really making our garden grow terrifically, and it's beautiful, but it's a little bit out of control. So thanks for helping if you can. Also, thanks Spencer for helping with the tech today, and be in touch. If something's on your mind, we always like to hear. All right. Did we already do the 4 great vows?
no,
All right, let's do the 4 great vows, which is about liberation of life, especially the first one. All beings, one body.
all beings, one body.
I vow to liberate.
I vow to liberate.
Blind passions, one root.
Blind passions, one root.
I vow to terminate.
I vow to terminate.
Dharma gates, one mind.
Dharma gates, one mind.
I vow to penetrate.
I vow to penetrate.
The great way of Buddha.
The great way of Buddha.
I vow to realize.
I vow to realize.
One little good thing at a time.
One little good thing at a time.
Woo! Okay, please take this chat so we can have a look.